Mo.com, myself, Ben Raza, here with the man, Tim Frank. We are going to talk WGC Mexico, of course. Don't worry, there will be some Puerto Rico Open. I know some of the real degens want your hot takes for that field, but obviously the WGC does take precedence. Are you excited for the week? We got 2 tournaments to talk about a little.
Oh yeah, anytime there's like twice as much golf to talk about, that's good. We have it kind of compartmentalized, like really good players in one field, really terrible players in another field. Yeah, I was thinking about this WGC, and I think I love the match play. I think that's the best WGC. But as far as like Firestone, this event, and then the WGC in China, this feels like it has a little like the course. I don't know if it's the course or it's being kind of a new event. It feels a little more exciting than the one in China and the one at Firestone. I don't know. I think maybe the altitude and just gives us something to talk about. And a new course gives us something to talk about. But it does seem like a little bit more of an exciting week than the other 2 stroke play WGCs, which are pretty boring. So
I'm kind of with you. Yeah. I don't love non-cuts. I don't love 70-man fields, but I'm somewhat excited for this. Maybe it is, the new course. Obviously, the strong field is always nice. We get shot tracker, even though we're out of the United States, which is good. But yeah.
Like magically, they can get shot tracker here, but they can't get it to Mayakoba.
I don't understand that. I'll understand that, but it is nice. So at least we know what's going to happen when some of our guys inevitably lose many strokes putting. But you said it right off the top. Obviously, things you need to know. It's a non-cut. It's all the super good guys, and then like 10, I don't want to say random people, but people from other tours and whatnot. Course we'll get into in a second. Other than that, I mean, it used to be at Doral. So if you're using course history, only look at the last 2 years. Before that, that's a bold strategy if you go to the wrong course.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to go back that far. I missed Doral though. Doral was like
that was a good time.
7,800 yards, like guys just wailing driver every hole. It was kind of an interesting track too, but
yeah, this. Do you want to talk about? I don't even want to try to pronounce this.
Chapultepec. I don't know.
Chapultepec. Okay, we're gonna go with that. Yeah. Obviously, it's a new course, par 71. What did you think when you kind of looked at it?
Yeah, 7,300 yards, but like massive elevation in Mexico City. Like, so its plays extremely short. I don't know. I don't remember exactly. People were saying it played like 6,700 yards. So with the elevation, it plays super short. I just remember the first year they played it here. We had nothing to go off of. We're going off of like, players are tweeting pictures and things, and it looked like super narrow off the tee, which it kind of is. And I think it led people to think that with the elevation and playing so short and like it being so tree lined, that it was going to be a short hitter's course. But we saw like year 1 the Bombers just dominated. Then year 2 a little mixed, but still kind of bomber heavy. So. Yeah, I don't know. It seems like the length would lead an advantage to the shorter hitters, but we've seen the Bombers dominate, and I think that kind of goes back to what we talked about a little bit last week. Is that the best player in the world are Bombers? They're all long, and this is a great field. Like, so this event's probably going to be dominated by the longer hitters, regardless of what type of track it is. I guess is my point. Just because like everybody at the top can get it out there. So yeah, I mean, I think if you're offline off the tee, if you're very wild, you're going to find yourself in some trouble. But it seemed like bomb and gouge was kind of the recipe around this place. But again, it's 2 years worth of data, so I try not to get super into what I think the course is going to take, because it's really hard to kind of take away from 2 years worth of play here. I think you need kind of more. So I'm just going to play it down the middle. And not go real heavy on any one specific type of player. But, it kind of looked like it gave up a fair amount of eagles for being such a small field. I saw 41 eagles last year, 34 eagles the year before. So, yeah, I think there's definitely some scoreable holes out here. So I think, DK scoring, especially with there being no cut, is going to be super important this week.
There's some short par 4s that I would venture to say some guys can attack. And, yeah, it's 7,300 yards, but that means nothing, as you said. The elevation, and that first year, I remember more vividly than last year. I don't know if it's because guys had seen it once, but there was a lot of errant iron shots, and it's that your distances are all off. This seems tailor-made for Bryson, just like calculating crazy stuff, and then he just is the only one who knows what club to hit. But you said it. I mean, we've seen Phil. Obviously, he's done good here, so it can't be too punishing off the tee if you're wild. Obviously, you don't want to be in the jungle, but I'm with you. I think aggressive off the tee. Not that it's going to define the week, but you can do that and then just have a lot of wedges into these holes.
But Phil had the secret map of the hidden sprinkler heads, though.
That's
So
true. He
you got to
also
know where
had,
those are. Yeah.
yeah, he had that. He had the local saying that someone stole his ball on a hole. He was he pulled out all the stops. I mentioned that in my article, which obviously is on the site. Come check it out. Rory had to endure that. I don't think Rory's ever been the same from that group pairing that took about 10 hours to complete with Phil shenanigans 2 years ago.
So that's what we're blaming Rory's
that's what I'm
dry
blaming.
spell on. Right.
Don't worry, it's going to be ending shortly. He's on the cusp. That's a fair segue. We'll jump into it then. Obviously, it's a WGC, so a lot of big names. We got 6 dudes, 10K or more. Usual suspects: JT, DJ, Rory. They're over 11K, and then Rahm, Ricky, and Bryson. Obviously, I think we both would agree that any of these guys could win. They're all super talented. Do you have a preference up top, though?
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to say like you have one preference, at the top in these really strong fields. They're all capable. And this week, as much as any, I think it's almost better to just, not make a huge stand up top and maybe make some stands down lower. Just kind of starting at the top, same thing for JT this week, as we said last week. The approach game has been like on a historic pace, gaining almost 2 strokes per round on approach, which is unheard of. He kind of continued that last week, but the off the tee game has been shaky. He's right around, 0 strokes gain, which for him is not good off the tee. So it's kind of one of those things, is he going to figure out the driver first, or are the irons going to regress first? Because if he figures out the driver and starts gaining strokes off the tee and this approach game continues, he's going to blitz the field. If the irons regress and the driver kind of is wonky still, then he's not going to play well. But I mean, just that approach game I love. So yeah, I like him up top at 11.8 and DJ at 11.5. Just even when when he doesn't play well, he still kind of plays well. He was, T9 last week and just really was never heard from. So I like those 2 guys at the top. And then I'd probably go down to Bryson at 10K. Just seems too cheap. I like him better than Fowler, and he's $300 cheaper than Fowler. I like him better than Rahm, and he's $700 cheaper than Rahm. So yeah, I like the 2 guys at the top, and then I go down to Bryson at 10K. 15th last week, a little bit like DJ, just kind of ho-hum, but still finished T15. But prior to that, he was 6th, 1st, 10th, 7th. I mean, that's 5 starts in a row of T15 or better. So yeah, probably the 2 guys at the top, and Bryson would be my 3 if I had to pick. I don't think it's a week where you really want to kind of go all in on one guy at the top. You have to spread it around a little bit, I think.
But if you do, it's Rory, obviously.
You notice that I left Rory
Yeah,
out
just don't touch Rory. I'm with you, though. Bryson, I was actually going to say what you just said. He's in that DJ bucket of every time I looked at him, I was overweight on him last week, didn't play well, and he's still in 15th. Like, he just seems to be kind of, it's that DJ where even if he's not at his best, he finds a way not to kill your lineups. Obviously, that's not what you're looking for, but it is nice to have that floor that high. And obviously, this is a non-cut, so you're just looking for scoring. It's tough. Obviously, JT is playing very well. He should have won last week. He kind of blew it, but 11.8 that's up there, man. I mean, I know he's very good, but you're talking $1,800 difference to someone like Bryson. For me, I'm more apt to do that. Obviously, I like Rory more than you do. 4th, 5th, and 4th. He's quietly playing better than I think people realize. Can't putt, but the off the tee game is back to where it should be, which is just domination. But yeah, I think the guy who gets lost is Ricky, for good reason. I think he's a little overpriced coming off the win. But for me, it's probably not going to be any aggressive stands up top. I'm with you. I think there's other spots in this field to kind of say, okay, this is where I'm going to, try to make my mark. And if I get that right, it's too hard to pick between these 6.
Yeah, it's impossible. And as time goes on, I feel like it gets even harder and harder.
Now there's new guys like Bryson and Rahm are just like actually in this club permanently.
Yeah, 100%. So, I found and I did the same thing at Riviera. Usually I'll like make a stand. But I mean, anybody that tells you that they can differentiate between these guys, I just don't see it. The games are all similar. They're all in great form. I'm kind of with you. I'll make my stands farther down the line here and just, have a little bit of a few of these guys at the top.
Fair enough. The next range, though, this is where, not that the top isn't tricky, but this range, I was talking to Pat Mayo yesterday on his show, and he was saying this is the hardest range for him, and I agree, is the 9K range. You got Brooks, your boy Tiger, Phil, Xander, and Decky. There's a lot going on there. I know we got, obviously, friends in chat. Someone is recommending the X-Man. What are you making with that? I think Brooks is going to be wildly unpopular just because he hasn't been playing.
Yeah.
Tiger, Phil's the defending champ. I have no interest there, I don't think. But what do you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, Brooks seems like a guy that I would want to play. 9,800 seems too cheap. I just have my notes literally say forgotten man, too cheap. Like I feel like no one, like you said, no one's gonna want to play him because we haven't really seen him. But 9,800 seems, it seems he could easily be 10-5 if we would have seen him play one time on the California swing, or more than one time, I guess I should say. Yeah, I like him, especially if he's gonna come in at lower ownership. I really like him. Boy, I had a tough time because I really liked Hideki. I liked him a lot last week, and he played well. He struck the ball well. He was good around the green, and he had a good event. And I think, I wanted to go right back to him this week, and I did bet him. But then when I look at Xander at $100 more expensive, I have Xander around 22 to 1. I have Decky around 28 to 1. So Vegas likes Xander a little bit better from a win equity standpoint, and he's been very consistent too, 15th, 10th, 25th, and 1st. And I think on DraftKings, I think Xander will come in substantially lower owned than Hideki.
Agree with that, yep.
So yeah, I think on DraftKings, I think Xander's a great pivot off of Hideki. And Hideki, I love. I've just been waiting for him to win. The ball striking's been great. The form has been great. And I do like him on DK. Maybe I'll play them both together in the same lineups. But I think X is probably a better tournament play from Hideki because I think the ownership will be a fraction of what Hideki's is.
Hideki's a guy I'm not going to get crazy with in terms of a fade, but there will be lineups, and this is where you want to be cognizant of the lineup that you're making. There will be certain lineups where I have pretty vanilla around it, and I'll say, you know what, I'm going to take a one-off on Hideki because I really like the play of playing him, but he's going to be very popular, and there's good pivots, Xander being one of them. Third guy in the show, we've only talked about like 10 guys, but Xander is another one. Even when he's in trouble, he somehow catapults. Like, I didn't realize he was even playing the weekend until Sunday. I was like, oh, he's just up there. Never seems to get in trouble, even when he's in trouble. It just finds a way to grind it out. The putter was finally bad last week, and I expect that to kind of return immediately. He is a pretty damn good putter, but obviously what the people want to know is, are you going to play Tiger?
No, heck no, not here. I don't. I mean, yeah, he had what did he come out? My rounds and days are confused because that tournament was so choppy last week. But I don't know if it was the second round or the third round where he came out like 6 under through 7. It looked like he was going to miss the cut. I think he made a putt on 18.
Yeah, on the number
to make the cut on the number, and then he just comes out firing. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't think he's a terrible play. 9,500 is a decent price, but this field is so stacked. I mean, just, give me Brooks at 9,800, 100 times out of 100 over Tiger, to be honest.
Ownership. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, no. So I feel like we're going to play this game every week where you're going to ask me if I like Tiger, and I'm going to say, yeah, the price is fine, but no, I'm not playing him. And we're just never going to get to that point where I fire on Tiger.
He's getting closer for me. I played him last week a little. I think he's now playable, obviously. There was a lot of weeks last year where I thought it was just wildly egregious to have some Tiger shares. But you said it. This is a strong field, and we've only talked about, obviously, the big guns and then the 9K range. The 8K range, we got Finau, Spieth, Leishman, Casey, Cantlay, a bunch of guys in the lower 8s. They're all, obviously, you're getting a significant discount in terms of price over someone like Tiger. And there's a lot of names in the 8K range that obviously are playable. I know for me, I think Cantley's going to be popular. I see that for good reason. He sets up pretty well. We're going to have to talk about Spieth, but where do you want to go with this 8K range?
Well, you know, we have Finau at the top at 8,900. I think he'll be popular too. Cooled off some, but you know, he just fits this mold of DK scoring. You know, he's going to make birdies and eagles. This course is going to give up some birdies and eagles. So I like that, you know, about him. But like you said, this is a strong range. You know, Paul Casey had a really strange tournament. So he was second at Pebble, and he finished his T25 last week. And then if you go and look at like how he got there, he gained 3.9 off the tee. So really strong off the tee. He only gained a stroke on approach, which is, so that's kind of meh. And then he gained 6 strokes around the green, but lost 5 strokes putting. So it's like he piped it off the tee, kind of missed a bunch of greens, chipped it close, and then missed every 3-footer. I don't know. I'm trying to like piece together like what happened. But yeah. I think it's interesting. You know, I really like Casey, especially, you know, we saw him, he should have won at Pebble. And then, you know, if he would have putted better, he would have had another very strong finish. So I mean, I like Casey at 8,600, and I mean Bubba at 84. I promised myself I wouldn't tout anybody because it was a no-cut event, so I'm going to take that out of my vernacular. I think if they're a bad play when there's a cut, they should still be a bad play when there's not a cut. I'm going to go with that.
That's a good rule, as you'll see.
Has never worked for me in the past. Where at these WGCs where I've played guys, I'm like, oh, this is a no-cut event, so I'm just going to fire at some of these guys, and it just doesn't seem to work. But Bubba has played well, 15th and 4th, but they were at 2 Bubba tracks. Obviously, Riviera is one of his all-time great tracks, and he was T15. Waste Management, you know, he's had a decent record there, but he was 4th. But, I mean, he's playing really well, 8,400, you know, great score, obviously, so I like a little bit of Bubba, too.
Oh, Bubba. I don't know what to do with him.
It could be a disaster because we're in a different country. This is a quirky course. You never know what's going to happen.
If he doesn't feel it, he's not dead. I thought he was going to lose it with the rain last week. Anyway, I will just second that notion, and I'm trying to tell this to myself live on the air here. People like Kyle Stanley, people who are just in bad form, getting 4 rounds from them is not a bonus. It could be a detriment. Like, if you're playing bad, it's just bad magnified over 72 holes. Obviously, you can take some more risks and hope that you get one of those lightning rounds, a 63 in there. It makes up for a lot of errors, especially with placement points. If it's a lower owned guy, you're not super reliant on that, and it's more pertinent of how they score. We'll get to all those egregious guys. There's plenty of them. I believe you tweeted something about Casey. I went back and I looked at his shot tracker for all the days to try to see what would make a round so bizarro. And it was that, he would just chip it to like inside 3 feet, and then he would usually miss, or he would hole it from off the green. He did have 1 or 2 of those. So really bizarro round. The guy I want to bring up is Tommy Fleetwood. I played him last week. It felt like every time he was about to get it going, he would just miss a short putt. It wasn't that he putted awful per se. It felt like he didn't putt well at opportune times. I think he's going to be really popular, but I'm definitely interested in him. I like him a lot this week. But as I said, the reason that I'm sure the viewership will plummet after I ask this question, Jordan Spieth, are you going to go take a chance with him? I think people are finally giving up in masses.
Yeah, I don't think I can get there.
No.
It's just, I mean, it was kind of a strange, was there video of the 10 that he made at 10? But that's a weird hole. See, I guess my point is, you know, that's a strange hole. I mean, it's hard.
He was just in the bunker for a while.
Right.
Like,
no, I don't think I can get there. He just can't get out of his own way. I mean, it seems like when he has a good round, he just has backed it up with 3 terrible rounds. And I'll go back to the same thing I said last week where, you know, he's lucky to have the finishes of 35th and 45th at Torrey Pines and Pebble because he did it all on the back of like 1 really good round at an easy course at both of those events. Without those 2 really good rounds at those 2 very easy courses, he may have missed both of those cuts. So no, I don't think I can get there. He just hasn't shown anything looking at the strokes gain metrics, there's just nothing there that leads me to believe that he's close. So no, I won't be getting there this week.
For me, it's pretty simple. Yeah, I did not have any exposure last week. If it looks like, and this is, stay tuned. Obviously, we have a show tomorrow night that will go into detail on this. If Spieth is like 5% projected ownership, I'll take some. If he's even remotely popular, I will say if he beats me, so be it. There's just too many other guys. Give me Casey, give me Leishman, give me a multitude of other guys in the 8K range. Because you're right. I stole that point multiple times that Spieth did all his damage on Monterey Peninsula and Torrey North. That doesn't help anybody. Those are Puerto Rico Open style courses. Get that out of here. So I'm not really buying it. Anybody else? Someone like Molinari, haven't even thought about him. I don't think I could get there. I'd rather take Sergio in terms of the low 8K range.
Yeah, I mean, Molly won't be owned. He just hasn't been playing, and when he was playing, it wasn't all that great in kind of the fall series around that time. Sergio struck it well at Riviera last week, but yeah, I don't know if I'm going to go there. I think the guy everyone's going to be on is Woodland at 7,900. Just seems underpriced for as good as he's been. 7th, 9th, and then I have him for a T80. I don't even know where that was. I didn't even know you could finish T80.
That's a bold. Let's see, Gary. If anyone could do it, it's him. That's impressive.
And then second. So 3 top 10s in his last 4 starts. Hasn't had much success here. A 50th and a 38th. But yeah, I think a lot of people are going to go to Woodland at 7,900. I don't know. Going down from there.
This is where it gets dangerous.
It does. I mean, Kuchar interests me at 7,700. Week in and week out, the approach game has been there. Last 4 events, which is 14 measured rounds, he's gained 13 strokes on his approaches. So, I mean, very solid. He played really well at Waste Management, was in that kind of a debacle of a final round with Fowler and JT where nobody wanted to win. But he did have 2 wins prior to that. I think 7,700 is a really good price for him for as consistent as he's been. The irons have been good. And like we said, it really is a short course. It plays like a short course. So I know Bombers have done very well here, but I mean, this is a course where he could just kind of, approach game it to death, and not get in trouble off the tee. So if everyone's going to play Woodland, I wouldn't be hesitant at all to play Kuchar at 7,700.
I'm in a similar bucket. To me, I'd rather have RCB. I don't know if it's just a personal preference thing. I like RCB. I'm not sure. We'll see how Kuchar's received down there. I do think that people are going to read too much into that for what it's worth.
Oh, I wasn't even thinking about that whole thing.
Yeah, he's got the anti-home game, But that's an interesting range. The high 7s. RCB is a guy I've been playing. Weird round. He putted really well. Around the green was really good. That's not what I wanted to see, obviously. I hope his irons, they should be corrected. He's a good ball striker. Charles Howell, do I dare? I know a friend of the show just asked in chat, any love for CH3? I don't think I'm there. Maybe a sprinkle, but there's just too many other guys in that same range for me.
Yeah, I mean, this is a loaded field, and he's one of the guys. And I mean, I guess Kuchar would fall into this range as well, that maybe as a cut maker maybe loses a little bit of value in a no cut event. I mean, I think he gets a lot of his value from making so many cuts, but yeah, and in a super strong field like this, I don't have any urge to go to Howell in a no cut event at 7,800. So
fair enough. Now we get to this is more my wheelhouse, some real sickos. We got Benny on Fitzy. How many lineups would you have to play to get some Fitzy exposure?
I don't know. 1,000 maybe?
Over the limits, I guess we could say. God, my boy Fitzy, I don't think I can play him. The guy, I think, I don't know how he'll be received in terms of ownership, but you have Oosthuizen at 7,500. We got bad Louis last week. I fell right in that trap like an idiot. He was just dead from the start. Showed some life, thought he was going to get in, and then he kept messing 3-footers. You just can't do that, and he does sometimes. But Non-cut, I'm going back to Louis. I really don't care. I think he sets up pretty damn well.
Yeah, I mean, there's always, obviously the upside is always there with him. He's another one, dangerous guy, in unknown conditions. We have altitude, we have questionable drinking water, we have travel circumstances. I don't know. There's a lot of outs.
He needs
for Louis
that bed.
Yeah, a lot of outs for Louis to WD here. But yeah, I mean, for 7,500 for that amount of upside, yeah, in tournaments, definitely go for it, especially if he's not going to be popular, which I don't think he will because he was awful last week.
So bad.
What about Hao Tong Lee?
Ooh, interesting. Talk to me.
Well, so he was second in Saudi Arabia, which was a pretty good field for a European Tour event. He was 16th the week before. I don't remember if that was the Dubai Desert Classic or Abu Dhabi is one of those two. Another pretty strong field event, but he's kind of enigmatic. Like, we'll just see him almost a little bit like Thorbjorn Olesen, where, missing cuts in terrible events. And then we'll see him flash in like majors and really strong field events, just like super up and down. I do have some interest in him. I don't know if he's going to be owned, which I don't think he will be. I wouldn't be interested in him, but the upside is there. I mean, we've seen him play really well, just kind of out of the blue in some of these events. I don't know. Vegas has him at about 50-1, which is pretty decent outright odds for being
really
7,400. Yeah, people like him. Yeah, I don't know. It's like coming off of these two good events, and I think he's kind of a name I think bettors like, just because. What was it? The Open Championship a couple years ago, where just out of the blue was like third place.
Yeah, he came storming.
Yeah.
He's one. So I think Cam Smith, who we'll talk about in a second, is going to be really popular. He got a huge price drop. Hao Tong Lee's a one-off from that. There's no way people, it's not like he's going to be 1%, but he's certainly not going to garner real ownership, in my opinion, at least. So I don't mind that. He certainly can make birdies. He's played stronger fields than you would think if you're not too familiar with him. He's played in a lot of events, obviously mostly in Europe, but still some stuff on the resume that's pretty solid. I know I just mentioned him. Do you like Cam Smith? Then I want to go on a little tangent about Ty Hatton, that guy, there's something with him. But what do you think about Cam Smith?
I'm just never a big Cam Smith guy.
Big price drop. Real big.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's 7,400, and he was playing really well. Made the cut last week, T49, nothing special, but that was a strong field. I don't know if that was maybe the best course fit for him as well, being kind of really needing to be long off the tee at Riviera. Yeah, I don't know. There's a couple guys a little bit cheaper I think I would play ahead of Cam Smith. But yeah, I mean, I think people like him this week. I've seen his name thrown out there a couple times, but I don't know. He's just one of those guys. I'm just not a big Cam Smith dude.
No. That's like me with Ty Hatton. I rarely play him. He's always overly owned. Missed the cut again last week. I know he can get hot with the putter, but besides his around the green game, I'm not sure how good he really is. Thoughts? Is that, I don't know. I'm not a Ty Hatton guy, and I always feel like I'm left out of the club.
I think I play him because I think other people talk him up, and I'm like, yeah.
Who started that? It's an Inception type guy, but I want to know the person that started this Hatton nonsense.
These Euro Tour guys. These guys that like to talk about the Euro Tour all the time.
Let's not get crazy. Yao Slouten is right there, who is right in my wheelhouse.
I'll give you the reason why I would not play Ty Hatton this week. He did miss the cut last week, but he is, like you said, he's not like a super popular guy, but he's a name that people are going to click. But third here last year, 10th here in 2017, that's going to draw attention to me. I think it'll cause him to be higher owned than he should be. I mean, they've only played this event here twice, and he's finished in the top 10 both times. I'm not a big course history guy, but people are. So I think people will be drawn to that at 7,300, especially when he's, a fairly popular name that people like to play.
Mm-hmm. Can I convince you to play any Yao Slouten?
No, not at all.
Did you see? First of all, I love that guy. I play him in Europe all the time. So he played this tournament in 2017. Have you seen these numbers? They're obscene. He gained. I have it right here.
Okay, lay it on me.
He gained 4.8 strokes off the tee, 5.6 with the approaches, but he lost 6.1 putting, and he came in 25th. So it's just the tailor-made, obviously all of that's going to regress because he's not gaining 10 strokes with the irons and off the tee, and he's not going to lose 6 putting. I do think as a 1%er, though, I'm there. I don't mind taking a stab with him. Well, I know we've talked about a lot of guys, but this is where I think one of the biggest decisions of the entire week is Henrik Stenson. I mean, he is just on an island. I was stunned when I saw the price. Yay or no? What do you think?
No, I mean, I don't think he missed all 3 cuts on the Mideast swing in the European Tour, Abu Dhabi, Dubai, and Saudi Arabia. I just don't think I can get there. I don't know. And he seems to be on a, I'm going to say he's kind of, I mean, this is obviously he's missed 3 straight cuts. I feel like his career is on the decline. No, I wouldn't say it's over, but I don't know if Stenson ever gets back to where he was. I mean, he wasn't that, I'm going to put my foot in my mouth. It's just stop.
Yeah, man. What are you saying about Stenson? Just like absolute, get him out of here. You got him on the challenge tour. Like, whoosh.
No. All right, I got somebody that I like, and I don't think he'll carry any ownership, and that's Kevin Kisner.
And that's what I'm talking about. Speak. I like it.
Because, okay, so he's not playing great. 26th and 28th his last 2 events. But he was awful last year. You know, if you look at his strokes gained, last year, negative 0.43 off the tee, negative 3.16 on approach. Just terrible. So if you look at this year, 15 measured rounds, that's not a lot. He's gaining 0.5 off the tee, very good. He's gaining almost 0.2 on approach. That's solid. I'm going to call this a short course because it plays short. I mean, he's a short course specialist. You know the putter can get hot. We've seen him play really well at courses where, you're just hitting your approach and making birdies. And I think if he, just like Kuchar, if, he keeps it in the fairway, in the approach game and the putter is working, I think, this is a place where he can play really well.
I'm with you.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone's going to play him because he just hasn't been doing anything. But his ball striking stats are so much better this year than they were last year, and he hasn't really been putting that well. So if the putter comes around, and he is a very good putter, I think this course really should set up well for him, and no one's going to be on him.
No, people aren't, and Kisner, he really checks all the boxes in terms of, I think the game fits. We've seen him should have won a major. He was right there when JT got his. So the strong field's not going to intimidate him. And he has been a little quiet. I think he's on a buy low maybe. And in a field like this, you obviously can play him. It's one of your last men in. And if Stenson is ridiculously owned, which I think there's a chance that he's pretty damn popular. Another possible one-off opportunity. I got one more guy, but before we get into that, quick plug. Obviously, for everyone watching, we do love you, and we got some questions in chat that we'll definitely answer. If you can hit the like button, certainly appreciate it. It does a lot for us. And if you haven't signed up, stop on in. You can use the promo code Jazzeraz. You get 50% off your first month. We got obviously a ton of stuff behind the paywall, not just with golf, basketball, baseball starting, all different sports, tennis, NASCAR, and whatnot. So, and you get Slack, which is the best part of all of this. So stop on in. But back to the golf. After you've now already buried Stenson, I'm assuming you think Noren's the best Swede in the world at this point.
Yeah, I mean, like Freddie Jakobsen's probably the second best.
Jasper Parnevik from the dust. Do you like Noren at all? I mean, he's another one. I thought he was kind of underpriced. He's not playing great, but I'm kind of a Noren fan in general.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of Noren as well. Yeah, I mean, I think the price is good. I don't think people will be on him. I don't know, how much I'll get to him, but I definitely always like Noren, so I feel like I tout him pretty much every show he's playing. Hasn't been there, but I think obviously we've seen the last couple of years him just racking up wins in Europe, and at the beginning of last year contending in a lot of tournaments. So the game's obviously there. It's a very good price for him.
It is. I mean, he used to be. I know things have changed, and he didn't hit the ground exactly running when he made a kind of a transition, but he was higher price than this in a lot of these strong fields. So I think there's a bargain there. Now, I know I said it gets a little dangerous. Now it gets crazy dangerous when you're talking. This is where we get a lot of the Euro players and some guys maybe we haven't heard of, a lot of people unfamiliar with. What do you think about the flat 7K and under? Do you have some guys to anchor the lineups if you go stars and scrubs?
Yeah, there's a couple guys in the upper 6 range that I think are very playable. I'm not as apt to go after some of these European Tour guys. I'd much rather play what we would consider an average PGA Tour player over some of these guys from the Euro Tour. Like, I'll play Griot and Russell Knox way more often than I'm going to play, Aaron Rai and Lucas Bjerregaard. So starting with Griot, I think that price is really good. The finishes haven't been great, but the ball striking has been phenomenal. Last 3 events, he's gained almost 17 strokes with the ball striking. That's only over 11 measured rounds because we had a couple events with no shot tracker. So, I mean, the ball strike has been good. If you can just make some putts, I think obviously that's kind of always the case with him. Knox, 14th and 10th in his last 2 events. Another guy who, plays well on shorter courses. So, again, I mean, I know that the top of the board is littered with bombers, but as we get down here, I think some of these shorter guys can, we might not need him to contend, but can play well here. Knox is a guy that's kind of thrived on shorter courses. And like I said, I like these 2 guys, way better than I like kind of any of your Sharmas or Alpha Barn Rats. And
Sharma.
Yeah, well, he played, but yeah, wasn't he winning this through like 3 rounds?
Oh yeah, Sharma was winning this. Sharma last week played on a tour that I've actually never heard of. It was in India. Finally had a good result, but I am not going to Sharma.
No.
Barnrat. So we do have a question from chat. Affy Barnrat or Danny Willett? What do you think? Neither.
I would play Willett. I mean, Willett's going to be owned.
He is.
Because people have drawn. I forget the name. Is it the Omega Masters in Switzerland where they play it at like 7,000 feet
in the mountains?
Yeah, it's like the only other like really super mountainous event in the world, and Willett's played very well at that event. So people are making this like altitude correlation, which I don't necessarily agree with. But yeah, Willett's been touted, but I'd never play Alpha Barn Rat. I don't make much of the 5th here. Last year, he hasn't really been all that good when we've seen him this year. So yeah, I would play Willett. He will be much higher owned than Alpha Barn Rat though.
I'm with you. I see it for Willett. Talked about that yesterday. Affy Barnrat, I kind of wanted to get there, but yeah, he has not been good. The waste management, you're like, decent showing. He gained like 9 strokes putting. I'm not sure. I do think the shorter course benefits him. Obviously, he plays all over the world. Strong field, I don't really think that's where he maybe makes a mark, but
you can probably smoke in the hotel rooms in Mexico City.
Definitely helps his overall formula of just smoking at all times. He plays all the tours simultaneously. Like, I swear to God, he goes to Brunei. He's here. He's in Europe. Well-traveled dude. I think on a macro level, even though I try to be the voice of reason when you and everyone else is just ripping the Euro Tour, I do think what you said is sharp, that a lot of people are going to play relative to who they are. Thorborn Olesen, Bjerregaard, Rai, EVR is down there. And I'm not saying I'm not going to play any of them, but you want to be careful between just blindly spraying these. Oh, they're crazy scorers. Yeah, but I mean, you got to be careful with that. I think I would lean to the Griot Knoxes of the world as well. But the 2 guys that we haven't talked about, and they're down there, and they're Americans. You have Kyle Stanley and Aaron Wise, who are both playing absolutely horrendous. Do you have any interest in going to either, or are you just saying, get them away from me?
Man, Kyle Stanley hurt. Kyle Stanley hurt last week. I played a lot of them. And I had this stupid approach where I said, well, if Kyle Stanley, I just need one of Kyle Stanley or Johnny Vegas to make the cut, and I'll be okay. Because I had had it split up pretty well. And no, they both missed the cut.
Don't worry. I said that, but I said I'll split it into thirds with Sam Saunders, and he also missed the cut. So I was completely decimated in the mid-6s last week.
Yeah, it's one of those where you're like, I mean, they're not both going to miss the cut. One of them is going to make the cut, and I'll be fine for like this percentage of my lineups. But no,
I played Grayson last week.
um,
Bad things happen.
no. I mean, I don't foresee myself going down here, but I would use the same approach that we talked about. I mean, if I had to, if I had a 5-man lineup that I thought was amazing, like I have the nuts, and I needed a $6,400 player, I'm definitely going to be playing Aaron Wise or Kyle Stanley before you play, Aaron Rye who's 6,500 or EVR. I mean, I think, yeah, these are guys who have won on the PGA Tour. But no, I don't have any urge to go there because Stanley he's been bad. And I thought I was going to be sharp and just load up on him last week, but that was awful.
I tried that with both. Aaron Wise, yeah, chat just pointed out, and it's true, he is a very good scorer, but he's not playing well at all. And the driver's his best club. I don't know how good of a fit that is. I may sprinkle if I think I can get over with like 8%. But in terms of major allocation, I just can't get there. Boy, I mean, other than that, don't mess around with any of these other guys. That's a real dangerous game. I do want to say, and I don't know if you know this because it just happened. So Putnam pulled out, and they added Ryan Fox in, the super bomber, 6,600. Not for me, but he's another one. You could put him in the European bucket of crazy.
Did they add it? Is he in the DK player pool?
I believe that he is. Maybe Chad is just saying that, so I'll sound like a buffoon. But he is a guy who hits it.
Oh, there he is. Yeah, 6,600.
All right. So it was true. No Scott Hens still because he can't qualify for these things anymore. But
well, yeah, I mean they're basically the same player. And Fox won the Perth Super 6 last week.
He did.
Granted, it was basically like a 54-hole stroke play tournament, and then they pulled the name out of a hat with the last 16 guys.
I saw your tweet about I believe who was it, Miguel Tabuena. And then there was some outrageous things happening over in Perth last week.
Yeah, like I don't know, for the people watching, listening, it's like Miguel Tabuena started off 9 under through 10 holes in round 1, and he didn't even make it to the match play portion of this weird tournament. Like, and the winning score was like 9 under. It was so bizarre. Like,
it was real wild stuff. Good times. All right. Final thoughts on WGC. Oh, Otegui. Nelson, fan of the show. Appreciate it, man. Otegui also added. So we have more crazy Europeans to choose from. But do you have any final thoughts here? Obviously, in terms of lineup construction and stuff, come back tomorrow night. We will be talking, me and Jason Roslin, about all that stuff in terms of exposures and correlations. But what do you think before we get some Puerto Rico shade in here?
Yeah, don't go too crazy. Like we said, if they're a bad play with a cut, they're most likely a bad play in a no cut event. And yeah, I mean, I'm going to skew towards the PGA Tour players. Nothing against the European Tour, but I just think that, your Russell Knoxes, your Grios are better than some of the equivalent European Tour players at the same price. So that's kind of the route I'm going to take. Would rather sprinkle at the top and make some stands down lower than do the reverse of that, where I just jam in 100% DJ and there's so much risk involved with missing out on some of these other guys. I don't think that's wise.
And we've also seen, just again, these are macro points. WGCs traditionally, maybe one guy from the sixes can get in the mix, but usually the top end is the top end. Like that, you don't see crazy people winning them. And the field is deep enough where I don't think you need to get extreme. You can take one guy who's a quality player. To me, like Kisner is who I'm imagining when I'm saying this, and use him instead of really reaching for a guy that maybe has never seen a field like this.
Yeah, it's far more likely that like Kevin Kisner comes in the top 5 or the top 10 than like, EVR does or something like that.
That's true. Sadly, that's true. But you mentioned bets, and then we can move to Puerto Rico. I also bet Decky. I got him at 33-1 the other day. So like that, I think a lot of people, I'm not alone in that. Anybody else that you fired on?
No, it was just Hideki. I'm trying to kind of rein it in a little bit, instead of firing these random
Scott Piercy's.
yeah, these Scott Piercy's that are just I should say in really strong events, because the strong events the best players win. In the shitty events you get these 150, 200 to 1 winners. But
Well,
good
perfect segue.
good
I mean,
segue,
there
yeah.
you go. Take it away. I mean, this event and the DFS contests for Puerto Rico are not good. DK did not size them well.
No.
So I'm going to take a look. I don't even know if I'm going to play, to be honest. I will probably take some steps in the betting market because the tournament is so incredibly wide open. And this is your wheelhouse. If you want some people we've never heard of, here it is. So what did you think when you saw this?
Yeah, I mean it's always strange, especially when you open the odds or the DK app. You know it's going to be a bad event, but then when you look and you're like Corey Connors is 25 to 1 and 10K, and some of these other guys which you're used to paying 7K for on DK, they're 8,500. So it's you got to kind of get over the sticker shock. But I mean, I think it's an interesting event. I think as far as DraftKings goes, I like GMAC at the top. It's we have Berger, we have Uline, we have Connor. None of those guys are even playing well. GMAC, we haven't seen a lot of him, but he played well at Pebble. He's won at courses like Harbor Town. He won at Pebble Beach at the U.S. Open. He won at Mayakoba. These are all coastal tracks. Puerto Rico, Cocoa Beach is a really long track, 7,500 yard par 72. But it's really susceptible. I haven't looked at the weather, but it's really susceptible to the wind. We've seen bombers do well here in very low scores, and we've seen short hitters do well when the wind blows. And we've seen, the scores have been anywhere from -20 to -7. So I think in tougher conditions, the course could suit GMAC, even though it's pretty long. I mean, he's kind of the only guy that I felt comfortable clicking on DraftKings at the top. I don't know if you've looked over pricing too much.
I saw Uline at 11,000, and I quickly assumed I got a virus. So
it's he's not even playing well, though. It's I don't,
and confirm.
Yeah. Aaron Badley's 9,900. I think GMAC will be very popular because he seems like a name that, we've seen him play well at Pebble. It's kind of fresh in people's mind, but I mean, I don't know. He's kind of the name that I gravitated to at the top, at least.
GMAC, I will say GMAC had a great tweet this morning about at the Orlando airport. Did you see that?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, about all the legit people were flying to Mexico, all the shame were flying to Puerto Rico for the golf pros. Yeah, this is an event. I mean, you're not going to build comfortable, unlike the WGC where all your lineups are going to look amazing. All your lineups, if you do build, are going to look awful because when Uline is your first man in as opposed to your last man in, it's dangerous. I'm more interested in attacking it from a betting perspective, to be honest. A couple guys that stood out for me, and again, these are darts, but you got Sangmoon Bae 40 to 1, Curtis Luck 50 to 1. It's so wide open. Berger, you just mentioned the guys that are priced at the top are not playing well. If they were, they'd probably actually just be in the WGC, Schwartzel and them. And then it's wide open. I mean, I don't think you need to go super egregious because there's 20, 30 guys I've never heard of. But there is that, maybe some younger guys or someone like Chris Kirk, who we've seen a little of and not playing too awful. Good with the irons. But again, watch that weather. Maybe try to attack it like that, stack a tee time or whatnot.
Yeah, well, I actually did bet Chris Kirk at 45 to 1. The last time he played was at Waste Management. He led the field in strokes gained approach. He was bad off the tee. He was awful with the putter, but the irons were good. And he just seems like a guy that under different circumstances, he could be up there with Berger and Uline, sub 20 to 1. He hasn't been playing well, but at least some signs were there that he kind of turned it around a little bit. In Phoenix where the irons were looking good. So yeah, I liked him. Bet of the week. I don't even know how to pronounce his name. Kyung Hoon Lee. All right.
I don't know who that is.
Neither do I, but he led Riviera in strokes gained approach last week. And he's 100-1. So I have to do it. He's been awful. He's missed a bunch of cuts in a row until last week. Then the irons are firing on all cylinders. I just think the field is so bad that if the irons were that good at Riviera in that strong of a field, he didn't really do anything else particularly well. But I mean, the irons were fired 100-1. I mean, in this event, I liked it. So yeah, Chris Kirk, Kyung Hoon Lee, if you really want to get crazy. But yeah, those are about the only two bets I saw. I mean, Matt Every's playing good. What is this world coming to?
Matt Every's 25-1. That's absurd.
Matt Every's he's actually playing really good. So yeah, it's.
What about Brendan Todd, 200-1?
Nah, I don't think I can get there yet. Your boy Charles, 20. You want some Charles at 25-1?
So I was gonna say this with the Louis when we were talking about Louis, and I missed it. And I said, you know what, I won't mention it. But now you brought up Charles. South Africa right now is just, as a country, really struggling with golf. We got Louis not playing well. Charles is awful. Grace had a brief blip, and then he went back to not being good. Aaron Wise, I didn't even know he has some South African roots. He was born there. He's been awful. Ernie Els might actually be playing the best of all the South Africans. Rory Sabatini, he just became Slovakian or whatever to get away from South Africa. The country, they need some new young guns. Dylan Fratelli's doing his best, but that's all we got right now.
Did you know that Justin Rose was born in South Africa?
I did not know that. They could use him right about now.
They could claim him, yes, for like the Golf World Cup or something.
That's what they need, but...
Yeah. Sabatini was just like, I'm done. I'm like, nope. Defecting. This is not. This is a terrible golfing country at this point. I don't know.
Charles is just so incredibly bad off the tee and with the putter right now. It's an insane combination. But yeah, overall with the Puerto Rico, I think you wanna take some stabs, but don't get too crazy. I mean, you shouldn't be taking guys that you've never heard of. Geronimo Esteve. Don't know who that. There's a lot of guys at the bottom. Don't think you want to be messing around with.
It's okay to take guys you've never heard of, depending on how closely you follow the game. Just look at the outright. The best thing I can do, and like I don't pay super close attention to Euro Tour, but I do like to play DK. You just match up the odds, and then you look down the line, and it'll help you to see like, hey, this guy's 7,200, but he's like 50-1 in the betting market. That should throw up a red flag that like, hey, maybe there's something here. Like, I don't know much about this guy. And that's probably something that you should do. I mean, I know Vegas isn't the end all be all for these things, but if you're unfamiliar with a lot of the players, just cross-reference it with the outright odds. And if the guy's 500-1, then you probably don't want him. But,
that's true.
If the guy's, 66-1 or 50-1 and all the guys around him are, a lot longer odds than that, it's going to give you an idea that there might be something there with these guys. So yeah, if you're not super familiar with the field, just cross-checking it with outright odds is kind of a quick way to just get an idea if you're in the right, ballpark, or if what kind of chance this guy really has.
Don't be alarmed if all of your guys don't have a pitcher this week. If you build Puerto Rico lineup, that might be tough sledding to get 6 guys with a pitcher on DK, but I'm not going to go crazy. If the prizes were better, I would. I'm going to stick to the WGC. We do have some big tournaments there. It's fun to sweat it. Don't get too worked up on Thursday. Cautionary tales. When there's no cut, it changes midway through Sunday. If you're in first, you have a slight chance to do well. Like that's about it. So we'll see. But any final thoughts before we duck on out of here with these two?
No, I mean, I wish the contests were better for Puerto Rico. I feel like they're just going to run 3 or 4 of the same contests because they're going to fill, so quickly. I mean, a lot of these are already filling as we speak. So anyway, yeah, I mean, it's a good week. It's a fun week. I'm not going to go too crazy on either event just because they're both a little strange with the no-cut event in Mexico and then obviously the crazy bad field in Puerto Rico. But I think it's a fun week. Just dabble a little bit in each event.
Do they go to Florida? Not to put you on the spot, but do they go to Florida next?
I think Honda Classic should be next week.
Good. I like that. I like the
Yeah.
Florida swing.
I love when they go to Florida because then golf starts real early. You just kind of roll out of bed.
This is
like,
correct.
boom, we're going.
Yep.
You don't have to sit
It's
wait all morning.
7:00. No tweaking. And there's water. Nothing's better than just egregious water balls all over your team. But yeah, I think that's well said. You don't want to get crazy. These are somewhat atypical events, and there's a lot of variance with either. No Tony Romo this year, unfortunately, in Puerto Rico.
He will be playing the Byron Nelson, though, apparently.
Really?
That's what I just read yesterday, yeah.
That's the one where they...
Yeah, the one at Trinity Forest or whatever.
That's the worst. That was the worst. The mini golf holes where it's like, oh, you hit it in the clown's nose. It funnels down on that par 3 into the hole.
Everyone gets a hole in one. Yeah.
Stupidest thing I've ever seen. That's the last time Spieth was like 15K that week. Anyway, before we go down a rabbit hole, we'll duck on out of here. As always, hit us with a like on your way out. We really do appreciate everyone stopping by. Tomorrow night, me and Jason Roslin breaking it all down again, answering your questions in chat. If you have questions, find us on Twitter, jump in Slack. We will be around, but good luck, everyone. Let's keep the golf season rolling, and we'll see you next week.